Hey folks, this is Steve and my brother Chris,
Hello.
and today is August the 5th, 2017, and I'm doing a video today. It's kind of switching up a little bit. I'm gonna just give a little bit of information. Chris has done everyone up to now, and I've been, kind of a person in the background, and that's been a huge blessing. I've learned so much. But I just wanted to give some facts because I did a lot of research on this flat Earth. Let me tell you what. I believed in the ball. I was totally sold. We're living on a ball. Everything's fine, And then, for some reason, this guy named Eric Dubay, on YouTube, started putting up things about this and this balloon that goes up 20 miles and the surface, the horizon is flat. I'm like, what? That's crazy. I knew about the World Trade Centers, and there's just been a few things that made me ask questions, and so I started doing some research. And it took me a long time. And the more I researched, because I was trying to prove, I was like, this is stupid. I'm going to prove that we're on a ball. I'm going to prove it. We're bound to have scientific experiments. We're bound to be able to show proof, positive facts, duplicatable using the scientific method of being able to prove that we're on a spinning ball, just like we've been told. And the more I looked, the more I found that I can't prove that. And the more I looked, the more I actually found it was more. I kept seeing that there's more proof to say that we're on a flat, stationary plane. And then the more I looked, the more I found. And there's two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to accept what is true. And there's only two mistakes that people can make when you're looking for truth. Number one, there's only two mistakes. One is if you don't start looking for truth, just go along to get along. Okay? Don't look. But if you start looking, the only other mistake you could do is stop until you've gone all the way, until you've gotten to the bottom. And I tell you what, folks, because I've been ridiculed, I've been ostracized by my own family, and it's just been, there's a lot of things that happen when you come to truth because people don't want to accept it. I'd rather have a question that I can't find an answer to than I would to have an answer that I can't question. Let me repeat that. I'd rather have a question that doesn't have an answer than I would to have an answer that I just can't question. Truth is not for all men or women. It's only for those who seek it. And if you're seeking the truth, you've come to the right place. Because I've looked for truth, and truth has no agenda. Truth doesn't try to sell you anything. Truth doesn't try to give you anything. Truth doesn't try to convince you anything. Truth just is. It is what it is.
The truth shall set you free.
The truth shall set you free.
Amen.
That's not true. Because I'll tell you what, the truth has done anything but, it's set me free in my mind, but in my life, due to the fact that I've ostracized family, friends, people look at me like, you think the earth is flat? You're crazy. Everybody knows it's not. Everybody knows it's not? That's not an answer. And believe me, the ultimate form of stupidity is making condemnation without doing any investigation. So if you want me to have the opinion of you being stupid, make a comment without investigating. But if you investigate something that I say, anything that I say, we say, if you find something that's not true, let me know. Let us know. I'll be happy to say, I stand corrected. And I'll make it right. Okay? I will make it right. Let's go over some facts. Because that's what the name of the lesson here is, or the information I'm going to give is basically just the facts. The first of all is I wanted to prove that we were on a ball. So I go, what's the scientific experiments? Well, I started looking at scientific experiments about the earth, movement, what have you, and here's what we came up with. Michelson-Morley experiment, 1887, these guys proved that the earth was not moving. And this is, by the way, all these experiments that I'm going to give to you, you can use the scientific method and you can duplicate them, you can replicate them, and you can get the same answers that we did over and over again. So if you give me a problem or a solution, be sure that it's something that I can duplicate. The Michelson-Morley proved the earth was not moving. They were so upset about it that they had to have somebody called Lorentz come up with the Lorentz contraption which says there's no evidence all for this and that the tube shortens as it goes through the ether. Now, think about that for a second, and if you look at the answer, the tube that Michelson and Morley were using shortens as it goes through the ether. What? Anyway, it doesn't make any sense, but that's what they did. Because you'll find that when it comes to truth, there's a filter. There's a truth filter on the information that you get. And a lot of, if it doesn't fit into the paradigm, if it doesn't fit into what they want things to be, they're just going to throw it out. You have out-of-place artifacts, out-of-place information, and we're under the impression that when you eliminate what's impossible, whatever's left, however improbable, must be the truth. When you eliminate the impossible, whatever's left, however improbable, must be the truth. Michelson Morley. Einstein used the theory of relativity to abolish the ether, and keep in mind it is a theory. Well, if we come down to 1913, the Sagnatt experiment, which was done before the Einstein, Sagnatt experiment, actually they were passing light in opposite directions while spinning it on a table and then recombining the light. So they shot the light off, different directions, spin a table, have it come back, and they proved that the ether does exist. You see, light has to travel in waves. It has to travel through something, and that's the ether. So the Sagnatt experiment in 1913, passing light in the opposite directions while spinning on a table and then recombining them, proved that the ether exists. Once again, it's duplicatable. You can do it over and over. You can replicate this. You can continue to do this experiment. It's used by airlines to do the laser gyroscopes. Let's go to the next one. Aries failure. The reason it's called a failure is because they failed to find movement, and that's what they were trying to do. See, all these scientists were trying to prove that either the Earth is moving or we're moving, and they couldn't. Aries failure proved that the stars are moving through the ether while the Earth remains stationary. Let me repeat that. The stars, they're moving. The Earth is remaining stationary. The Michelson-Gale experiment proved that the ether passed over the Earth once every 24 hours. It didn't prove whether the ether was moving or the Earth was spinning, but it proved that the ether passed over the Earth once every 24 hours. You see, light travels in waves. It has to have a medium in which to travel. The next experiment we have is something called the Bedford Level experiment. And this was done by a man named Samuel Rowbotham. And what he did is, in England, there's a place called the Bedford Level, It's a canal that's 6 miles perfectly straight.
Old Bedford.
Bedford. And he took a little canoe and he put a little flag on a pole, 6 inches or 8 inches above the water, and he had somebody row to the end, and he put a flag and a telescope at he put a telescope on his end, a flag at that end. He put a telescope down at this 6 miles, and he looked at the telescope to see what the curve would be, because obviously if you're going 6 miles, there's a curve, and we're going to discuss it's 8 inches per mile squared, which we're going to cover here momentarily. Pause, stay with me till the end here. So, the Bedford Level, what he did is he proved that water's completely level. I guess that's why we call it sea level.
Water seeks its own level?
Yeah, instead of sea curve, it's sea level. Go figure. A lot of things that I had to realize when I started doing this investigation is I had to discredit or discount my common sense, my own common sense that would tell me if I wasn't told we were spinning, I would think we would stay put. You can fire a cannon up in the air, a cannonball, huge cannon, up in the air, fire it straight up in the air, and if it's straight, it will come straight back down and land right back in the cannon tube. Well, how is that if we're spinning 1,000 miles an hour? I mean, how is that? Once again, the Bedford Level experiment proved that the water is level. They've shown in several experiments now that boats can go out over the horizon and it looks like they're falling down below the horizon, and they take a P900X or some fancy camera and they zoom it right back in, or a telescope, and you can see the complete ship, the whole thing. The whole thing. Okay, the reason it goes is kind of like if you're in a hotel, if you're in a really nice hotel and it's really big, you look down the hallway and it looks like, wow, it comes down to nothing. But you could run down to the end of the hallway and it's just as big down here as it is down there. But it doesn't look that way. Let's talk about the curvature. The curvature that we're on, because we're supposedly on a ball, so there's a curve, and it's 8 inches per mile squared. So let's show you how you can figure that out. Every mile, it would be 1 inch, so 1 inch times 1 inch, which is 1, times 8, okay, equals 8. So the first mile is 8 inches. The second mile is 2, so it's 2 times 2, which is 4, times 8 is 32 inches. And if you want to find out how many feet that is, you divide by 12, and it's 2.6 feet. So we go to 3 miles. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 8 is 72. You divide it by 12, and you have 6 feet. I can go ahead and go out to 5 miles. That's 5 times 5 is 25. Times 8 is 200. Divided by 12 is 16.6 feet. Let's go to 10 miles, because this is where it gets, what's that?
I was going to say, how about 6 miles? Because Samuel Rowbotham did it for 6 miles as an experiment. Was it not 6 miles?
Yeah.
I have 24 feet.
24 feet.
24 feet. So when he was sitting in the canal, he shouldn't have been able, what was his telescope, a couple inches above the water?
Yeah, it was actually 8 inches above the water, and the flag was 8 inches above the water. You're right. It should have been
24 feet
24 feet
or
below.
at least-
He shouldn't have been able to see it at all, and yet he was. So very good. Thank you, Chris,
Okay.
brother. I appreciate that. If we went to 10 miles, 10 times 10 is 100, times 8, that's 800. If you divide 800 by 12, you have 66.6 feet. Interesting. So at 100 miles, we go to 20 miles. 20 times 20 is 400. Times 8, 3,200, divided by 12 is 266.6 feet. You go to 100 miles, if something's 100 miles away, 100 times 100 is 10,000, times 8 is 80,000, divided by 12 is 6,666.6 feet. My whole point is that there are things that are visible way beyond that. The Statue of Liberty is a very popular icon. It is 326 feet above sea level. It is visible from 60 miles. When you do the math, it should be 2,074 feet below visibility. We should not be able to see that at all. And yet we are. Ancient civilizations have depicted. These are ancient civilizations, okay? You've got the Egyptian, a dome, the Norse, a dome, heaven and earth, Hindu, Mayan, NASA, Hebrew, Navajo, Inca, except the Roman Empire, of course. Isn't it interesting that everybody through history knew where we were living? 1,500 years ago, everybody knew where we were living. 500 years ago, everybody thought we were on a complete plane. And now, people think we're spinning on a ball. If you tell a child the sky is green, and they're raised all their life with the sky is green, they're going to think the sky is green. And folks, somebody's going to come along and tell them the sky is blue, and they're going to go, no, it's not, it's green. And they'll even argue with you. The airline flights, when you look at airline flights, and they always go way up north to go way down south. If you put that same flight on a plane, on this right here, you'll see that it's not going up and down, it's really going straight across because there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts.
Which means you'll never fly over Antarctica.
Right. Let's see. One more. What else we got for facts, brother?
We got lighthouses.
Okay.
Lighthouses can be seen from such great distances. Lighthouses, we have the, let's see here. We have the Cordonan light on the River Grande, west coast of France, is visible at 31 statute miles, and its altitude is 207 feet, which would give its depression below the horizon at nearly 280 180 feet.
Okay.
The light at Madras, probably not pronouncing that correctly.
Sorry if we mess up some of these
Yes.
names here.
On the Esplanade is 132 feet high and is visible 28 statute miles, at which distance it ought to be beneath the horizon more than 250 feet. You know what would be interesting is, what was that in Chicago skyline? What were the two locations where Skiba drove across filming?
Oh, in Chicago?
Chicago skyline, and they say, well, it's a
Or,
mirage.
yeah, the
Which you-
Nowitzki said, oh, this picture's a mirage. And Ross Skiba took a boat, took a telescoping
Which is what?
camera.
Which is what, 40 miles
40
away?
miles.
40 miles.
There's
across
another
the-
guy, August Picard. I forgot to mention him. And this is a guy that in 1932 took a balloon to over 55,800 feet. And it's in the Popular Science magazine, August of 1931. He went 10 miles high in an airtight balloon, the first man to reach the stratosphere, and what he said, it looks like a disc with the sides curved up. It's a flat disc with a curve on the side, where we know to be the Antarctic wall. That's where Antarctica is, no matter where you go. But every science, people that actually did the work, people that actually put their, that did the experiments, pretty much say the same thing.
So you're saying that the horizon always rises to eye level of the observer as altitude is gained. No matter how high you go, the horizon will always rise to meet eye level.
That's exactly right.
So if we were on a ball, that would mean we'd be looking down upon the ball.
Correct.
Okay.
And folks, there's a couple of things that you can get. I'm not endorsing anybody's book. I don't get paid to endorse or condone. But if you want to do some research, investigations into a massive 500-year heliocentric lie. And these books will go over tons and tons of information. Minds are like parachutes. They're best used when they're open. Far Eastern cosmology, the heliocentric versus geocentric theories, the flat earth cosmology, how the sunlight, when it comes down, you can see sunlight going in several different angles, and you're like, wait a minute, if the sun is 93 million miles away, it's all going to come straight down. And yet, how many times do you look in the clouds and see the rays coming down at different angles? When you sit on the edge of the water and the sun is going down, I don't care where you are, a lake, a pond, no matter how big it is, you could be at the ocean and the sun goes all the way across the water. Why? Because it's flat. It's level. And it's the way God made it.
Amen.
IMO. There's a sea level, it's called sea level. And I talked to a friend of mine, just came from China. I said, Joe, how long when you reached cruising altitude, how long did you stay up there? About 18 hours. Wait a minute. You were cruising at about 500 miles an hour for 18 hours and you never dipped the plane down? No, you keep it level. You could have a level on the plane with you. It's completely level. Now you answer me this. If you're going 500 miles an hour and you travel 18 hours, you're going to be off in space somewhere, aren't you? I mean, realistically, if you're on a ball and you're going to keep flying straight, you have to keep tilting the plane down. Even the Quran talks about, the Quran talks about, man, if one of the imams or one of the guys was talking about, look, if a plane takes off and the Earth is traveling 1,000 miles an hour, really? How's it supposed to get there? And yet, whether you take a plane from let's say, Miami, Florida to Portland, Oregon, and then take the Portland, Oregon back to Miami, Florida, those flights take the same amount of time? If you're going to Alberta, Canada, and you go to Dallas, Texas, and you go Dallas, Texas to Alberta, Canada, those flights take about the same time? How is that possible if we're spinning on a ball? You see, you ask questions. Now, I talked about the basic facts. What I've just mentioned is common sense. Everything, according to Nikola Tesla, is frequency, vibration, and energy. You got to get outside the box if you want to get in. You got to dump your cup out a lot of times before you can put more in. Most people, their brain is full, their mind is full, so you can't put anything else in. Man, pour it out. Get some information. But this one is a good one. The Zetetic Astronomy, Earth is not a globe. An experimental inquiry into the true figure of the Earth, proving it a plane without axial or orbital motion and the only material world in the universe. Really? Read that book. It'll make a difference. Where's the other one that we got, brother? That one right there. That the one you got in your hand right there. Can I borrow that just a second? Look at this. This is a guy, Eric Dubay, 200 proofs the Earth is not a spinning ball. You can go over, and the geologists they don't have to figure in the curvature of the Earth. There's a bridge in China that's over 100 miles long. They didn't have to figure any curvature in. None. Well, how is that? Start asking questions. When you start asking questions, you'll get the answers, but it's not going to be what you think. You can try to prove you're on a ball. I recommend it. You know, everybody who tells the truth says the same thing. Do your own research. Here you go, brother. Do your own research. You know, you don't have to believe a single word we say. That's what I did. And you know what? Everybody who's been telling the truth says the same thing. Do your own research. Because if I'm lying to you, I don't want you to research. But I'm not. So research. Do your own. Now, I can prove that we're on a flat plane, whether I jumped on a trampoline. You jump on a trampoline, you jump in the air, the trampoline's not going to go off from underneath you. When a baseball player hits a home run, does it matter which direction he's going? Because if the earth is spinning, then, you know, the ball could fly away, or could he hit up in the air and it goes backwards? I mean, really. What about a plane? How does a plane land if we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour? Oh, guide us in. Really? It has to be completely still. Now, I understand. It's so hard. It's so hard when you realize that everybody thinks the sky is green and you realize the sky is blue. When you realize it's flat and not movable. Now, when I say flat, there's hills, valleys, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, you can go way up high, you can go way down low, but overall, not a ball. People aren't standing underneath us on their heads. And gravity. Gravity is almost like a god. I mean, gravity is a false god. Gravity is the answer to everything the official experts can't explain, and it doesn't make any sense on a spinning ball. They say that the gravity from the moon affects the tides on the ocean. How come it doesn't affect the Great Lakes? Oh, you can't answer that. Never will, because it doesn't affect the Great Lakes, because it has no effect. And you're telling me the moon that has 1/28th the gravity of the Earth is going to affect anything? If anything, we should be pulling it. Gravity is the answer for everything the official experts can't explain. How does the Earth orbit the sun? Gravity. Why do we stick to a spinning ball Earth? Oh, gravity. Why doesn't water fly off a spinning ball at over 1,000 miles an hour? I got your answer. Here it is. Gravity. Wait, why does the moon orbit the Earth? Gravity. What causes the tides? The moon's gravity. Why do wandering stars called planets move in relation to the fixed constellation? Gravity. Why do these wandering stars called planets have names of Roman and Greek deities like Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn? Really? The statement gravity is the reason or cause. They might as well say God is the reason or cause. Okay? Why is that? How does the Earth orbit the sun? God. How do we stick to a spinning ball? Earth. God. But gravity is their answer. The belief in gravity has nothing to do with science and everything to do with religion. Gravity strong enough to hold the oceans on a spinning ball, yet weak enough for the bird can fly.
Or insects.
Wow. Or insects. Gravity is just a theory.
Well, it's interesting that it's 57 miles away from Michigan, Mirror Park, to the Chicago skyline. And so based upon that, it should be, even the tallest building there, it should be 1,450 feet below visibility. You shouldn't be able to see the Chicago skyline, but you can see it from the Michigan side of the Great Lakes. I found that fascinating.
That is fascinating. And folks, you know, all this information, we put this information out because we want you to know, because somebody did it for us. And all we're trying to do is help and inform you. You know, success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you're capable of becoming. You know, all we do, we put everything out. You know, we throw everything out, and you're smart. If you're searching, you know, you can figure things out if you're willing to look, but you got to look outside the box. You got to turn off the TV and realize there people that have an agenda are trying to sell you something. They're trying to convince you of something. We just want you to know, because really, once you know, once you understand that we are in a created environment. We are. It is exactly like we know it is. I mean, common sense tells us. I've been skydiving. I went jumped out of a plane. I did it twice. Jumped out of a plane and I could see the Great Lakes, and it didn't dawn on me that I could see the Chicago skyline, the Great Lakes. I could see for miles and miles and miles. Literally, what I would say 20, 30, 40 miles. I shouldn't have been able to. I shouldn't have been able to see for as far as I was. We're on a plane. We're not moving. You know, you can accept that. You can fight it. You go skydiving and take a tennis ball. You can throw it to each other. I mean, there's so many on a merry-go-round. You spin a merry-go-round. If I throw the ball this way and we're spinning this way, the ball's going to go over to this person. Okay, it's going to follow. We're not moving. We are complete motionless. Now, I can prove that with all these experiments. The Michelson-Gale, Michelson-Morley, the Sagnet experiment, Airy's failure, Michelson-Gale, Bedford-Level experiment. I could go over the scientific experiments and prove it to you. You can prove it to you through common sense. You can prove it to you if you want to use the Bible. There are so many ways that you can prove this, and yet everybody always says, yeah, but. Be careful of this information and realize the main reason is to understand that there's a God. He created all this. We get to enjoy it. You live today, enjoy today. Be sure you reach around to the people around you, and don't forget to tell people that you love them. Life is too short not to. And realize we're here for a reason. We're here to understand. We're here. We've got free will. So our concept, our whole idea, we want to spread love. We want to spread information, and we want the best for you. Love you. God bless you.